you either push on and something goes completely to shit, or you make a decision, I guess. So it's just sort of having and this is a whole family discussion. Okay, guys, just so you know, this is where we're at. This is what's about to happen. If we say we're going to pull the pin now, this is going to cost us. This chunk here. Are we all in that? Just so everyone, it's like you do business, like it's a communication.
But does that headline act getting electrocuted on stage?
Well, that's right. If we just fried the hilltop hoods, probably not going to go that well.
The Follett family has been embedded in Langhorne Creek for the past century, making a living off many years of dairy farming before transitioning over to winemaking under the Lake Breeze label in the 1990s. Eldest son Roger, winemaker Greg and vineyard manager Tim have built on the foundations laid by their old man Ken, running their ever-growing business alongside a list of other family members, with its nexus based around candid kitchen table conversations, good food and rude jokes served up by the matriarch Marlene. This is a chat about navigating the complexities of family dynamics in the industry, getting along and getting ready for the next generation. Here's the Follett boys.
Welcome to Healthy Minds, Healthy Vines, the wellbeing podcast for growers, proudly brought to you by the Wine Grape Council of South Australia and sponsored by PIRSA. Hosted by award-winning mental health podcaster Callum McPherson and wine columnist for The Australian, Nick Ryan.
Eldest, to start off with, just tell us a bit about your mum and dad and their vision.
Oh, who wants that one?
Do you want me to start?
Yeah, you can start.
You can
tell
them
about Ken's vision. Well, then, it's fine. He doesn't wear glasses.
I suppose, mum and dad, or dad in particular, I suppose, was a dairy guy. So we grew up on a dairy farm, and we've always had vineyards on the property as well. So I suppose when the wine side of things started was more in their head, was probably more in the 80s when we were sort of teenagers, and I think they were looking at how do we keep the boys on the farm to a degree?
Too many kids, basically.
Too many kids. So
too many kids who didn't like getting up early.
Yes, didn't like dairy.
Well, I milked for quite a few years, actually.
I'm sure this will come up later on with Roger, how much he milked and supported, got things going. But, so we had...
It's all down to Roger.
Vineyards before the mid to late 80s weren't paying too much, so the milk check was what sort of kept us afloat, really. But when things started to move there, I think Dad was sort of looking at, we were selling grapes to Penfolds and Wolf Blass, who were two separate companies in those days, and Dad will always say he was sort of talking to, it was Rob Gibson was the main guy who sort of suggested maybe we make a little bit of wine ourselves. In the sort of 1987 was the first wine that we had done for ourselves, and I think it's sort of, I'm not sure if Dad had a real vision, but just started off making a little bit of wine, and then I went off and studied winemaking, and it sort of gradually sort of evolved. I'm not sure if Dad ever thought we'd be where we are today.
Where was that first wine made?
It was made at Penfolds. So we originally, the grapes got sent there. They drained a bit off into a few barrels. We brought it back to Bleasdale and sort of looked after it from there. And that was probably the first 3 or 4 vintages in the 80s.
What sort of characters are mum and dad?
Mum's a quieter type of character. She's not really out there. My dad's more of the people sort of person, knows everybody knows him. So my mum's always been by his side, sort of thing. So
the mum's very much got a very wicked sense of humour. They're very much the humorous one. Kenny's more straight up and down, but more likes talking to people, doesn't he? I suppose. But mum.
Well, mum's, like Roger said, has that wicked sort of sense of humour.
She'd need it.
As one of our wines is named the Naughty Nanny, like after her, because she's always that little bit of a naughty side to her. So she's which everybody understands if they come around the morning tea time at Lake Breeze. Always in
she's playing tricks on people.
Just the first one to have a bit of a rude comment or, always take the rude side or something, be a bit naughty with things. So, she's always been good at that. So,
So who takes after who?
Well, don't say it.
Probably me more so. I would say probably me more so. I would say that's my personality, I guess, similar to mum.
Yes.
Nothing over the top, but we like to have a bit of fun. The whole family's very much everyone taking the piss out of each other, really pretty much an Australian thing, isn't it, really? So no one gets too caught up in their own importance in the whole business or whatever and who we are. So we always think if we're not taking the piss out of you, we don't really like you. So it's just how we bounce things around. So hence we like taking the piss out of Nick Bryan over here.
Well, that's pretty easy too, right?
That's very sweet.
I mean, is that a healthy? I mean, that's a healthy approach in a family business to have that sort of byplay and interaction that you can all bring each other down a peg or two if you need to.
I guess it works for us. That's
We're still together at the moment, so no one's got.
If you don't laugh,
too
you cry.
thin a skin. I think otherwise, you wouldn't hang around too long. I think.
I think so. It builds a lot of resilience anyway. There's no doubt about that. I mean, I said no one's too pressured, but I think it does help everyone bounce off each other and not get ahead of themselves. Occasionally, we've got to knock the winemaker down a little bit if he's done all right. So
that week after a wine show,
all the time.
Your head doesn't fit through the door.
Yeah, no, it normally lasts about half an hour. A few pats on the back, then it's like back to normal.
work.
Yeah, get into it.
So how did the three of you get along growing up? Is this bouncing off each other and camaraderie developed over time, or was it
I was
a bit dicey?
I was breaking these two up from fights in all.
Really is how this.
Sense.
So I was the eldest one, obviously the much toughest one as well.
yeah.
Strongest, toughest.
I think we can all tell that.
most annoying.
This is a video podcast after all.
I don't know, we all got on pretty well, I think. Everyone was very sporting, so you always, like every country family, you always out in the front playing cricket or kicking the footy or mucking around. So I think all kids, when they're boys growing up, you're always fighting with each other, but it wasn't over the top. I think it's always good fun. Everyone got on well, and because we've always been together. It's been hard to always say with our family now. You get to Christmas Day there now, and you see the same old people you see every day. So it's kind of every day you're seeing the same person. So it does have its challenges for sure.
Sure, through it.
So the sort of knobs we got to deal with that work. Just
Mate,
can't think of
one
Someone
job.
trying to sell me barrels.
bloody World Cooperage.
One
someone
job.
out there doing that.
Yeah,
so
chappy.
Good wines getting around
Go
on
away,
Christmas
chappy.
though. That'd be all right.
Just walk over to the winery and Greg might grab a couple of the better ones now and then. But
Yeah, open a big bottle or something. But we'd never been huge. You don't want to share the good stuff with the rest of the rally. So,
of course not.
you got to be careful what you bring out.
Greg's also the tightest one of everyone, so won't bring the good ones out. So, keep it in. So
Just have to save it for myself.
Roger's the opposite.
personality trait.
Roger will bring the top shelf. And,
share it around, share the love.
It's there to be drunk.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
Roger's Espresso Martinis the reason we don't do the wine show lunch at Lake Breeze.
It sent us broke. Roger's special martinis.
It makes for a good vibe though, Nick.
It does. It makes for a very good vibe, Roger.
Did you miss them this year?
Yeah.
After the show?
Yeah. No, it hurt to leave.
Put a few of those down last time, did you?
Oh no, it's one of my favourite, if not my favourite wine show of them all, the Langhorne Creek wine show. Always kicks on well.
But the espresso was a strong brew. Was it at some point?
Well, I don't know. It was always sort of, it got to 6 o'clock and it just gravitated towards the bar and the cocktails and the whatever to keep everyone up and about. So they were pretty good, weren't they, Nick? I think.
They were all right. That
self-rated
probably
cocktail maker.
my critical faculties weren't that great. By
No,
that
well,
point,
true.
but
They weren't that good, but everyone was 3 parts pissed by then.
Yeah,
So that's
they were in my hand, so that was enough.
Yeah, it didn't matter.
Perfect. Are you guys similar to each other or quite different personalities?
I think you can see it right here.
I think there's definitely a bit of similarity, but I think our personalities are different in a lot of ways as well. So whilst we get along, then I think that's perhaps part of why we're together. We get along well enough, but we're different enough at the same time that Tim works at Vineyard, Roger's in the sales, and we have our different areas.
Do you think those sort of differences in personality are what pushed you into those parts of the businesses, or being in those parts of the businesses of the business shaped the personality?
Definitely. Like, I couldn't do what Roger does. That's not who I am. Roger does that really well. Like, the old thing, he can sell ice to Eskimos type of personality, and be a stranger's best mate within 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Where, I'm more quieter and
See, originally Roger was running out in the vineyard and doing that, but then as there was a need as we grew the business, it was his skills were going to be a lot better than sitting on a tractor would sort of to come in, and sort of helping him manage the business and down the sales and all that was suited his personality
How'd you go with that transition, Rod?
It was good. I liked it. I mean, I love being in the vineyard to start off with. That was like how the business has grown and how it's kind of evolved over time. There was no great set plan, I don't think. It's always been evolution to get where we got to. So from starting the vineyard, when we went through the whole phase of the vineyard growing, I was a big part of that, I guess. I think I was in the vineyard for 10 or 12 years, or probably 15 years as manager of that, along with Dad, who was obviously there as well. That was already what he was passionate about. And then Greg was winemaking. And like all business it starts in that stick the label on the back, in the shed to start off with. At night times, it started a couple of thousand cases, got bigger and bigger and bigger. So it was a slow evolution into whatever so Greg was doing sales for it at the same time, I guess, when we first started off. Then it got bigger and then someone else had to come into that. So it's just sort of a natural progression, like Nick said, with personalities into that, where Tim was in the vineyard with me at the time too. It was natural for him to take over the vineyard and me kind of gravitate into doing the sales. And I guess that's evolved too into me doing the business side of it as well. And, Greg winemaking got bigger and bigger and bigger, and the vineyard got bigger, and it all kind of, it's just evolution more than
there's
planned.
Electric fences keeping each of you out of different parts of the business. You're all going to be in the vineyard a bit, and vintage, you're all going to be in the winery. And
That's right. Spending most of your time in the office though, that's pretty different. Is that something that, do you wish you were out in the vineyard more at times, or?
Oh, when everyone's
there's other people in the office.
He goes and waters the lawn out the
when everyone's giving me the shits in there, someone just want to watch.
His nickname to the us in the vineyard is the Headland Warrior. He does a lot of driving around the headland and looks down the rows from the headland and then suggests from there.
Yeah, they're still straight.
They're still straight. It's all good. But it's different from in the vineyard to in there. But that happened over a period of time too. It wasn't when I came in just straight from that to that. It was like, do some of that and some of that, and it sort of gravitated over a few years, I guess.
And leading up to that, did you all go and study ag after school?
Roger didn't. You came straight home on the farm and milking cows, I think.
Yeah. So I did to year 12, did a couple of years at Herbre. It was my only probably agricultural sort of stuff before I came home. It was almost like a lot of family businesses, especially on farming ones, the eldest son came home. That just sort of happened. So it sort of happened without any really
as soon as you can be put to work, you are.
Yeah, you're in there pruning vines and milking the cows and doing whatever, where these two boys had more formal probably stuff at Roseworthy and whatever.
Off the Roseworthy and started winemaking. And Tim tried to do wine marketing for a little while. It wasn't his...
wine marketing wasn't for me. It's not, it was, like I was saying before, it's not my type of thing. So,
You just, got rid of 1 year at Roseworthy, really?
Well,
drank beer and
just
did whatever.
Yeah, the bar did well out of me and things like that, I suppose, during that year and moved on. So, yeah.
So I'm the only one with a degree in the family. Yeah.
Okay. And you like to tout.
It goes to show you can't polish a turd though. And, you try, you can educate it, but it's only so far you can go.
Still.
Was there an expectation that you'd all take it over together someday? Or was it more going to be on Rog as the oldest?
I don't think there was ever, it was never really a plan. I was in with Mum and Dad when going from the vineyard to the winery. It was never really who's going to do it, whatever. It's like giving everyone the opportunity to be in it. I think that's one thing also that parents really love, I think, is that everyone's in it. I think it's every parent's dream that their kids can work together. They can make a living in a business that they've kind of set up. So even though it's grown a lot since they did it from just that, that raw product of grapes to go into the winery. But honestly, I think it's never been this set down business plan. This is how this is going to work. So I think it's just nice that it's worked out how it could. And we're probably lucky enough, we do get on well enough, even though we've got differences, that we can, make it all work after 35 or something years being there doing it.
Yeah. Ken does love everybody being there.
Yeah.
He loves family being involved. And like now my kids come back. Tyler's a winemaker now and he's come back a little bit, and his partner's working in the business, and so he does love family and love people coming back, and so he loves that succession, I think.
Yeah, well, and it's not always the case in generational change in businesses that there is a place for anyone who wants to come back in. So you obviously got to work pretty hard to grow the business to make room for those that want to come in.
Yeah, well, I always look back at when Mum and Dad, we bought the neighbour's out in 1986, was it?
Yeah,
And
86,
that's when the
87, yeah.
interest rates were 18 or 19%, and we had to have a second dairy just to pay the interest originally, and sort of whether it was good fortune or good planning, I suppose the grape growing side of things and selling grapes, all of a sudden contracts come in, big prices came in, and it sort of helped us sort of get through that period where it would have been tough, I'd imagine, for quite a while. But I was gallivanting off at uni, and Roger was back, doing the hard
Just
yards.
battling away like it was.
There's similar pressures on dairy as there are in wine. I mean, we know a lot about milk prices being screwed down, and we see that sometimes in wine as well. I mean,
I guess
are there similarities?
Well, I guess with the dairy, like with our situation, because we're in Langhorne Creek, there weren't big dairies around. Back in the day, you could make a living out of 50 cows and doing this, but it got to the stage where we had 2 dairies doing 50 cattle, where it wasn't really a viable thing. Milk prices were very suppressed. Remember the milk check was probably $50,000 a year, so you weren't. So had a family of 5 kids running around, mum and dad, trying to survive on that, and the grape check was probably
you're not
less.
feeding growing boys on that.
No, so that was it. So and that probably industry changed. Like we had to have bigger dairies and do it differently. So it was just that natural progression out of what we did to the vineyards. But dairies are, I said they've changed a lot over the years. Probably like vineyards, so they've got a little bit bigger to survive as well.
So how much milking did you do?
I probably did 8 or 9 years of it, I guess. So that was enough. It's enough to through your early years of your life when you're out at footy, you're playing. Let's say you're playing footy somewhere and finish at 5 o'clock somewhere, and then you got to get home, milk the cows when you're 18 or 19, and get out. All your mates have already gone out to the pub, so you're stuck there milking the cows.
You made up for it, Roger.
So I made up for it.
Comes in hot afterwards.
I came in very hot. I always had a lot of staying power. Nick, don't take that anywhere.
I was leaving that.
You guys didn't get on the milking?
Oh,
Bits and
a little
pieces.
bit,
yeah, we did, but not to the same extent as Roger. Obviously, we grew up, putting the hay out and feeding the calves and doing all those things, and probably relief milking, helping out here and there, but not so much as what Roger had
Could have been a
to.
bit younger, so I didn't have to go through so much of the milking. Yeah.
How did you view it all back then growing up? Did you love it from the start, or was it something that's
The cows.
right on you? Just all of it, I suppose.
I suppose we didn't know any different, but I think being on the land was, a wonderful upbringing. We had we're still there. We're still on the same, basically in the same place. So obviously we enjoyed it. So, but when the choice came, and I can't remember if Dad actually sat us around the table and said, "What do you think about this dairying thing?" But can you remember an actual moment where we?
Well, he was trying to say that yesterday, that he had that chat with us.
I vaguely can recall. And we always went,
or what? Yeah.
Nah, let's plant more vines and let's move into the wine a bit more.
Oh,
get a
so
bit
he's
heavy with that.
involving you in the direction of things from early on.
Yeah. I think that's something that Dad, whilst he's opinionated and he's entitled to be as well. From the beginning, he gave us pretty much a free license to sort of, certainly from my perspective, coming home, when I was 22 and started making the wine and actually literally directing how the whole wine business went, and he didn't know a lot about it. So just being able to do that and not him sort of looking over and saying, you can't do that, you can't do this. He was quite free with how that went. I'm sure it's the same with the vineyard.
Well, with planting grapes, it's the same, I guess, with Roger and me doing that.
Yeah,
so
very much.
Sort of that gave us pretty much.
And he's probably younger than we are now. Like if you're looking, he would have been only, in his early 50s then, probably.
Yeah,
So
I'll be that old now.
yeah.
You got more of an appreciation for him as you've gotten older?
I think, like Greg said, he was someone which was quite different from often farming fathers can be quite controlling for a fair while and keep control of the purse strings up, but he was always very empowering. So I think that was the thing that we've taken on. We're trying to hopefully put forward with our next generation coming through to, put them in charge of their own destiny a bit with the job they do. Do we probably appreciate, I think we've always appreciated what he did anyway. I think, from a father and a mother, what they did and what they gave us and let us run with. So, even though they were very much there to support and back up, and like Greg and Tim said, probably put his 2 cents worth in. But he's someone also who you could vehemently disagree, but with 10 seconds, he'd forget about it and move on. There's never someone who holds any grudges at all or whatever. So that made it always very nice. And Keith's very, very strong strong opinions, but happy to get over it straight away.
And that set the tone for the family in regards to not holding grudges and
I think so.
moving on from stuff.
It makes everyone partners in the business, not employees.
You can have a bit of a fight and a bit of a get it out of the system, and then you get on with it.
Life's too short.
So you're not ones for having stuff bubble under the surface. You sort of step on it.
Yeah, got to move on, and life's a bit too short for that.
You can sort it out at footy training anyway if you need to.
Yeah, I was going to say.
That's when we were younger.
We were fighting for each other's spots, so it was all right.
They just line each other up at training.
Speaking of footy, your dad's a big footy fan.
Yeah.
Did you guys win any flags for the club back in the day, or how'd the history
not together.
the field go?
Dad coached me and Greg to back-to-back senior
Colts. Dad was a coach when we were playing, and
there you go.
Yes,
Tim's been quite a few A-grade premierships.
I won a couple of A-grade premierships in the early 2000s.
So we all played together, and with our cousin there for quite a few years in the 90s. There was three brothers, and our cousin, who was probably the best footballer of all of us. We're all in the same team for a while. So.
Right.
But sport was a huge thing in Ken's life and Mum's life too. Like everything was work, but nothing got in the way of footy. So if you had to get footy training, off you go or do that. So that was probably the key pillar of everything. It was probably a small country town too. Langhorne Creek, all the community revolved around the footy club really. So it's pretty much we still now. We've all been involved. Tim's a trainer there now still. Greg's a vice president. I was president for many years as well. So we've all been involved in that local community, that local footy club.
Well, Tim's the reigning champion from the quiz night on Quiz Saturday. You were telling us before we started recording.
It wasn't me. It was my kids that are quite smart. So lucky we had them there. So
what do you get from that element of local sport and bringing the community together when you're all working so hard during the week, and then you've got something else you can focus on? What does that add to a community?
I think we've been brought up with Mum and Dad being so community minded. They've been on a lot of committees. So Dad was vice president of the club for 30 years or so, and played about 500 games of football and coached and all those things. So we've seen them do a lot of work in the community, but you get a lot out of it as well, helping out, and it is a bit of a release from day to day work as well, where you can go to the footy club. It's not saying we're at the footy club and we talk to each other.
It's other people to talk to.
Other than if I need Roger to help me in the barbecue and he might turn up a bit late or something.
But this is another thing.
Well, cook a good steak sandwich on the barbecue though. Don't worry.
But it is like Greg said, like it's a release, or it's something that outside of work, and that we all do and we take for we love doing, I guess, and enjoy doing. So it's another part of our life.
Mum was a trainer for.
Mum was a trainer for over 40 years or something.
Yeah, as well. So.
But is there a bit of a changing nature in clubs like that, in that, as some of these communities getting smaller and a bit more transitory, people sort of moving through or being pulled into play, and, is that changing the fabric of it a bit?
I think one part, it's tougher to get volunteers, there's no doubt about that, and whether that's life's just changed a little bit as well. I think 30 years ago, there was less going on probably, I think, as well. So it's easy to volunteer, more demands and that. So it's just hard to get people to put their hands up to do roles, I think. And also there's a lot, I think, especially on committees and stuff like that. It's not just sporting clubs. It's much more onerous on what you have to be able to do than what you did back in the day. Like back in the day when, like the footy club, we had a president who was there for 42 years, but it was a very different footy club back then to what it is now or whatever. So,
was it?
44 years.
Did you get it right?
We got it right.
43.
Oh, you got that one. It was up on the board in the footy club. You should have got that right. Yeah. So I think life's changed a lot as well, which also sort of infiltrates into clubs and committees and all that in everything.
Yeah, I think it's just an ongoing challenge in regional and rural life is to keep all that stuff alive, because it is so crucial.
Yeah, for sure.
And Greg, you spent some time overseas doing vintages?
Yes, as a younger man, yeah. So I had a couple of vintages overseas, one in a...
You're getting old when you're starting to use the term younger man. Oh, God, it's all down here.
My day.
Back when I was a young fella.
Well, 91, when I first finished uni, I went overseas for about 8 months, travelling through Europe, and did a vintage in California. And then I went again in 94 to the south of France. Would have loved to have sort of done more, but part of it was, getting really busy with our own own things, couldn't get away for the length of time.
What did you gain from those experiences?
It's like working anywhere, like doing another vintage somewhere else. You're going to take, whether it's overseas or in Australia, you're going to take something out of those experiences, little things that you pick up and learn along the way, and it's life experience as well. Being somewhere else and being out of family business for a little while,
Getting a break,
getting a break from that, and it's probably Roger never maybe had the opportunity to do something like that because he was came home straight away and put to work milking cows, slaving away, weren't you, Roger?
He's taking the piss a little bit. It's not a bit of sarcasm.
He always talks about this. Then you have that extra job where he went down to Matala working and he was getting $3 an hour.
No, $2.50 an hour. Here we go.
$2.50 an hour. Well, you guys were, No, but sorry, I was just trying to deflect things from me there. But no, I mean it's fantastic to do that. And I said my nephew, Tim's lad Tyler's, and my other nephew is doing some overseas vintages as well. I think it's a bit of a rite of passage for people who have studied winemaking, and there's certainly not that many great jobs to sort of walk straight into in the winemaking field, but there's plenty of cellar hand jobs, and you can do vintages, Southern Hemisphere, Northern Hemisphere, and gain experience and have a bit of fun at the same time.
Yeah, a lot of guests we've had on have had that experience, and it's just a bit of an exciting draw card for people or those who sort of regret it and wish they had that opportunity and something that they missed out on. Would you guys have wanted to do that if you could?
I think looking back, I think it's just sign of the times back then. We're talking nearly 40 years ago where it wasn't a given. So is it nearly 40 years ago?
No.
30 odd years ago. I think it's more of a given now that people like, Greg's son Thomas is over there, Tyler's been over there as well. So we really much encourage the kids to do it now. I think back in the day it wasn't done as much, but I think looking back, you'd love to have the opportunity to do it, I think, and experience those things as much just to see the world and be a bit more worldly, I think, as well.
I see what we're trying to do. Obviously, we want our kids to come back in the business, but to do it a bit differently than we did, where we sort of came straight back in, is to get some more life experience, get some more experience outside of, and bring something
new back to
the business.
I mean, as a sort of first generation winemaker, young man sort of trying to get the family's winemaking feet on the ground, what other influences did you look to? Who else did you look to for guidance in those early days?
Well, I suppose originally we had the wine made at Penfolds, so there was a couple of winemakers there that Neville Falkenberg was one in particular who actually kept looking after our white wines right through the 90s before I started doing them myself. And when I worked at Hardy's Tintara, so I had a good relationship with David O'Leary. So I think Dad, even in 92 when I worked at Bleezer for vintage and bought a few tanks of grapes in there and looked after them myself, he didn't really trust me, so he still sent some off. A little bit still went to Penfolds and a little bit still went to Hardy's. Insurance policy. We quickly actually realised it was that the stuff that we did in-house was always going to be better than going to a big, they're not going to look after it quite the same as we are. So we were quite lucky that those first wines actually did in 92 turned out to be pretty bloody good and won swag of awards. So we sort of hit the ground running.
Yeah. And I guess in a small community like Langhorne Creek, your winemaking neighbours are always going to be part of what goes
absolutely.
on.
So Michael Potson over at Bleasdale, they were great. I could literally, we talked about football and stuff. I'd leave a little note on the board, just leave these 2 tanks for me, and I'd go to footy train and I'd come back in and turn the lights on and just do my own little bit of work on the wines because I wanted to do things a bit differently than how they did, and they were I could just walk in and out as I pleased, and they were always so accommodating, and they still are. Still
good with those.
Yeah, still are.
Yeah.
So got a lot. Yeah, we made wine there for the first 6 or 8 years, so they helped us out a heap, and still do.
What's the beauty of being part of the Langhorne Creek community?
I think it's a bit like we were saying before with the footy, and everybody knows each other. And like even with the wineries, like some of our best friends are from Bremerton or wherever, or the wine house, we're all friends. or Kimbolton and that. I said Kimbolton right that time.
Said
Kimbleton.
No, we sort of joke called Kimbleton and Bremerton. I think
It's a joke, so, because everybody is so close in the whole region with wineries that you could ring up, Lucy or Beck from Bremerton, and they'll help you, and I'll do the same for them. So I think, I think whole regions like
and
that.
I think that rolls. I think people that would come in, whether they be the Nick Ryans of the world or suppliers, whatever, to the region, sort of get this feeling that everyone's kind of in it together in Langhorne Creek. I think it's that real community.
You can't not pick up on it.
I think it's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Everyone says, I guess we're used to it. We live that, so we don't see it from other regions. So it's the people that come in and out probably see it more so. So like if we do well, or Bremerton do well, or Bleaside do well, or whatever, it all helps everyone. I think everyone's got that same mindset of helping each other, because it's going to help the region.
Helps the Langhorne Creek name as such.
I think it's
a
tight community.
And I guess it's important when a large proportion of the grapes grown in Langhorne Creek are going to celebrate external, businesses for those that are, in Langhorne Creek and
I
proudly
think it's a big
Langhorne
thing
Creek
for
based
us,
labels.
I think, to promote Langhorne Creek as not just ourselves, but as a whole. So
it's always been a bit of a one in all in, and partly due, as I said, due to the size. There's not 60, 80, 100 companies sort of competing against each other. We're sort of, because there's only, there's smaller number of wine brands, especially the locally, the ones with the cellar.
So there's that real vibe of building each other up.
I think so. And it's like you even get customers come in and you sort of recommend them to go to the neighbour and here and here. I was like, geez, I thought you'd be no.
They've got a good Malbec or, such and such. It doesn't.
Do you spend much time in other regions?
Probably not as much as you used to.
Yeah, probably not really. I mean, you still go there. We spend, and probably the ones in McLaren Vale, most that I would go to over there. Do you go there to check them out? Probably now and then, but it's probably more so from the cellar door component, I think, to see what other people are doing, what are people offering in other places, what's going to work with you and whatever. So it's probably more that than styles or whatever. I'm not sure whether Greg looks at many from, other wine regions stylistically with what they're doing with certain wines or whatever. But, I think I must admit I've been a Coonawarra for 10 years probably, so you don't probably get down there. But the ones, Adelaide Hills, McLaren Vale, Like Tim, you get around a little bit probably with Dion.
But it's more restaurants you go to, I guess, in the cellar doors these days, and try a bit of wine on the side. So it's a bit...
It's changed.
The whole's changed a little bit now. It's not you just go to do 5 or 6 cellar doors anymore. You go there and have lunch, and you might spend the whole afternoon, and that's it, sort of thing. So you don't. Yeah, it's a bit harder to cover more wineries these days than what it was, 10, 15 years ago.
Where else stands out to you with what they're doing at the moment that sort of caught your eye?
There's probably like it's McLaren Vale and the Hills probably as much as anywhere. I think what McLaren Vale have and how that offering with the sea and how they sort of utilise that and some of the new varieties that are coming in and that there. And I suppose if you were to set something up tomorrow from a branding perspective, maybe the Hills wouldn't be a bad spot because of its proximity to Adelaide and that. But I mean, we're very happy where we are. No plans on moving too far.
I think the thing that's has really changed is like probably when we were first home. All it was that cellar door, people come in and taste, and off they go again. I think industry in general has changed from to get a connection with you turning up to have a tasting is if you're going to have something else there, whether it be lunch or other things you can offer around your winery vineyard. That's what connects people to you, not just having a tasting on the next one. So that's what's happening everywhere now, which is a cool part of what's going on, and hence what's probably driven our business a lot differently to where it was 25, 30 years ago. We evolved slowly. We've gone from having the cellar door and then slowly putting on the restaurant part to then going to the function area and then doing weddings and functions and
concert promoters
and doing the festival as well.
I mean, did you ever think that you would be festival directors when you first started?
Well,
not when we first started, definitely not.
Not when we first started. I guess that was all part of how we thought, I think, and the whole Langhorne Creek community. We probably got 12, 13 years ago before it really started a thought process where it was there and there was always a festival in Barossa or McLaren Vale. We were thinking, how do you get Langhorne Creek out where more people are coming along? So it was always that ethos of community. Sure, it was going to help because it was a lot of hard yards early on and a lot of tip of money in to try to make it happen because there's very few just bespoke festivals out there. So we never thought it probably 30 years ago, but it's kind of grown. It's going okay now, but the first 3 or 4 years were exceptionally tough. But it's nice to be involved in doing different stuff. You know, the core and the base is always the wine, but to these different events, it's just nice to have something different going on and having those couple of weeks of the festival leading up. It's a fair bit of work, but we've kind of got things nailed reasonably well now.
Yeah, when you've got a beautiful place, it's nice to share it with a whole bunch of people. But when it goes biblically wrong, tell us a little bit about that adventure and what you learn from events
Tim knows
like
how
that.
to tow buses out.
I know how to tow buses out.
Yeah, so this is a biblical storm hitting the festival, what, 2 years ago?
Yeah,
2 years
22.
ago. So we
Yeah, that was
give us a sense of
Well,
what happened that day.
started off with a 10, 20 mil rain early-ish, didn't we?
We just felt that it was set up. I mean, the actual lead up to the event was just a week of spectacular weather, and the site was looking so good. The lineup was amazing. And then it turned into, you go on, Tim, sorry. But
we had 10, 20 mil and as
was
the
all that
cars
was
were coming in
forecast,
and nothing was really forecast. The forecast was 10, 12 mil or something like that.
10 to 15 mil.
10 to
I think,
15 mil.
So
we
you
got
can
that in
handle
the
that.
morning.
you can get through.
We couldn't call it off with that.
Cars started getting a little bit bogged early, and then once the festival opened, then we had 60, 70 mil in a matter of 20 minutes.
The sky went black.
Well,
didn't it?
I
That's
think-
what
Sky
people
Bay,
talk about.
and there was lightning going everywhere,
And that was the
there
worst, yeah.
there was lightning strikes all around, and 2,000 or 3,000 people trying to get in the gate, and people just water everywhere going through all the cellar door.
Well, we had it through the kitchen and
All
the
the
warehouse.
kitchens,
We had
warehouse
roofs
and-
falling, even without what was happening
and
outside.
all the tents that everybody set up are all just 2 foot underwater, and people swimming down the canals, and basically every car was bogged, and still
It's amazing how
lightning,
many
it's
times
just-
they use the word, what a fucking shit show. It kind of just went from awesome to what the
And like
fuck
quickly.
just happened. Yeah, it was quick.
It was just
I can remember that meeting where we all come in and we could see the next band. We'd had 35 mil or something,
Yeah.
and
We knew.
we were borderline shutting it. And then we saw this next band of rain coming, and we looked at each other and we went around and said,
no, we've got to cancel.
we're going to have to pull.
We didn't want to cancel.
So
got
this
to
is
that.
so you all
Yeah.
come together. You're sitting something in an office upstairs, going, "What do we do here?"
So basically, we'd had there's an emergency response plan, all those sort of things there, and safety officers. So a few of us had a meeting with them and coppers and the whole lot, and it got to shit. What are we going to do? And then we had to take it back and have a meeting about, because some of this is a very financial situation.
Yeah.
This is like you either push on and something goes completely to shit, or you make a decision, I guess. So it's just sort of having and this is the whole family discussion. Okay, guys, just so you know, this is where we're at. This is what's about to happen. If we say we're going to pull the pin now, this is going to cost us. This chunk here. Are we all in that? Just so everyone, it's like you do business. Like it's a communication.
But does that
thing.
headline act getting electrocuted on stage?
Well, that's
cost
right.
us
You know,
that?
if we just fried the hilltop hoods, probably not going to go that well. So, and that's sort of I guess we called it off, and then I think it was about half hour later when it really started to team down, and that's when our new function area, basically the roof it started to pour in through the back of that, and it got to that we had probably 60 people in our VIP area with shirts off in the warehouse, just trying to, because water in the warehouse like this, trying to get the water out, help us out, and it became a bit comical in the end that what else can go wrong. So.
Well, we got 2,000-3,000 people still came through the gate in that whole thing, and they
had a great time.
They had a great time. We had a lot of stories
about it.
They were all gathered in the bar area and hiding in toilet blocks with bottles of wine.
The
and
great-
Didn't hear a single note, but
I think the great thing is
nothing
the support
played.
that there was an initial little bit of a few complaints about, this, why'd you do this, why'd you do that? But then I think straight after that, the amount of support that we had, there was 2,000 or 3,000 people put their tickets over for the following year. So once it was another meeting, are we going to do this? Are we going to do this again? So we didn't want to leave it on that note, I think, on that real, down a note after 2 years of COVID, and then losing quite a bit of money in that event. So
Looking back, it's fun.
We'll always remember that one. We won't remember the good ones.
Touch wood, it never happens again. But
wood.
you kind of know you can handle pretty much anything.
As Ken said, Dad said, like, it's the biggest rain he's ever seen in that short amount of time, he does forget things sometimes a bit, but
In Langhorne Creek,
but in
it's
Langhorne
very
Creek, to that sort of rain, that's one of the biggest ones he's ever seen. It just happened to happen
on that
on that day and the wrong time.
It's the kind of situation where it's good that there's a lot of you who can come together and come to an understanding, and it's not just one person making the call and then having to live with it.
Yeah. Do you think you're better placed to make decisions like that on the fly as the family unit rather than,
Well, so it's better. I think I guess it does take some load off one set of shoulders if a few people are making a decision, to bounce stuff off of and think clearly.
But in hindsight, that decision had to be made. But I suppose if you,
any sane person was going to make that decision.
Yeah, it had to be.
but it was just it was a hard decision because of what gets put into it, and you knew
How much work goes into it.
Mind you, I did fly off to Italy for a week on the Monday after when the cleaning was happening.
The cleanup was horrendous, and so thanks for that.
I was there.
Someone's got to go to Cooperage junket.
I was there till 5 a.m. drinking espresso martinis. So thinking, what else do you do?
Well, that keeps you efficient.
Yeah, it was a big night actually. In the end. It was like drowning my sorrows. It was like
the thing. We had to get all the cars out of the car park because we actually had a flood. The next afternoon
the next day
came
we were
through,
underwater.
and then the whole area
toilet
flooded.
blocks were floating. And,
Yeah, it was fun. But like we were saying about community, we got people from the community helping with tractors and pulling things out.
People know how to handle floods.
Yeah.
Langhorne Creek people.
And the weather's been a bit kinder since then.
A little bit.
Well, I only had the one event of that anyway, one festival since then. One's coming up again this year, November 9. Get your tickets now.
That's right.
Great value. Awesome event. Yeah.
And Greg and Tim, your wives also work in the business.
Yep, that's right.
What roles do they do?
What do you do? Do you
Well,
know?
no,
Careful. She's, I guess, pays and does all the finance money sort of stuff, export orders, I think, as well, and stuff. So, it's pretty busy sort of with the amount of staff and stuff we have these days and stuff. And Robin does.
Yeah, well, she's sort of marketing and looks after the mailing list and all of that. So, and she's been there pretty much since we've been married since '96. So, running all that along with me initially, but then obviously the business expanded.
Gil's
sort of
always been there.
As we sort of opened restaurants and the lights, a lot more employees than what we did have 25 years ago.
And you got a sister as well over on KI doing her own thing?
Yeah, we've got two sisters, two elder sisters. So they've got the False Cape brand of so I still make wine. The grapes come over on the boat and I still make their wine for them. Heads back on the island, but they've got an excellent little cellar door they've put up there as well. So they've got a little business that's going quite well over there.
So that's
as well.
Julie and who?
Julie and Jamie. So it's that who run the False Cape, and then we have older sister Andrea, who
It's worked on and off with us too.
yeah.
Kitchen, cellar door, Waite's sort of done 5 or 6 years with us on and off when she needs to, but not so much anymore. But everyone's been involved to a certain extent through the business, actually.
her kids have, a couple of them have come through work vintage. Her daughter Kate was, I suppose, part of the impetus for
the festival.
handpick and still runs the handpick festival. So so it's very much a family.
What was the aspiration with going over to KI and doing it over there rather than just staying?
Well, her sister was already over. She went over as a teacher and married a local, and I think they sort of came to Dad with a idea of buying a block of land and putting some grapes on in 99 and found this little site, and initially we're going to sell some grapes, but as these things happen, I think the first year they were going to sell the grapes, it didn't happen, and we ended up making some wine for them, and one thing led to another. Yeah.
I mean, that was during the boom of grapes too, where everyone was planting grapes everywhere, so it seemed like a good idea at the time, and I guess we owned it initially, and it's kind of slowly evolved, part of the family that Julie's doing it with Jamie, and made that bigger and built the cellar door like you said, but that was just evolution as well. Started small and got bigger and bigger and bigger, and a cellar door started.
You can see a theme here. We never got too many plans. I think it's just
sort of happened.
Roger loves that word evolve.
Evolve. I use the word evolve.
Makes it sound more planned.
No real idea what's going on. Just let happen.
It's just like making smart decisions along the way.
Most of our decisions are around the kitchen table or whatever, and there's not too many, like we haven't necessarily got this is the 10-year strategy, rightly or wrongly. It's worked for us, but things have sort of just evolved at a gradual rate.
I suppose people have got different ways of doing things, but you can get too bogged down in the what ifs and the trying to premeditate what might happen. And there's a lot to be said for you just do what you've always done, which is one foot in front of the other and just start doing stuff and work it out as you go and learn from success and failure along the way. I'm sure there's been plenty of things that you probably had a crack at that didn't work out exactly. And
not too many things have gone. Not too many things have gone pear-shaped. No, they haven't really. I mean, we're reasonably conservative by nature anyway. But we sort of, when we have an idea, we think about, the pros and cons, and it's not just let's just do it, and not really think about it. Obviously, it's got to have a commercial part of it as well, and we've always been quite good at rolling through the commercial part plus the marketability part for what we're doing and looking forward. Probably the last 10 years, it's really. Probably the last 5 years, probably really looking forward what's our next generation going to do too. So, we're all like not 40 anymore. So it's always had a bit of a long-term perspective because we always think we're always going to be there. It's not like I don't think we're going to build the business up and sell it off. That's never been a thought process. So that's really about what's next for the best for the next generation to do. Because like having a lot of kids and people involved, it's got to be able to sustain it as well. So that's really part of the marketing, part of the restaurant, part of the function area. All these things kind of work that, it's got a marketability about it, but it's also got a commerciality about it that actually works. And that was the function area. It all just made sense. So, yeah, it's all done solely with a lot of thought, even though it sounds like there's no great plan, but it's always done with a fair bit of thought behind it as well.
Plenty of lunches around Marlene's mum and dad's table, There's plenty of conversations that I guess it all evolves over those sort of things, Roger.
Yeah, and Ken and I have always been very positive. Just go and have a crack at doing it. Don't sit there and think about it. If you're going to think it's a great idea, go and do it. So it's always been that positive thought process though as well.
It's one of the good things about family businesses. It doesn't have to get signed off by a bunch of different department heads and go to committees and let's just get it done.
How's the sales and distribution landscape shifted in the last 10 years or so?
Oh, well, in 10 years, it's changed a lot. The last couple of years, not so good. Obviously, we've had we've had a very good little niche brand for a long time. And we've had, lots of good wines get great awards from, Greg's done a great job with the winemaking. That was a pump up. I don't
I'm waiting for the compliment sandwich.
Can that hit the editor's file, please?
Send it straight to Greg, please.
I didn't actually mean to say that.
It's going to be his new ringtone.
And we don't compliment very
next part of that, Roger, was the Vineyard.
Yeah, great one is made in the Vineyard.
I was going with the Vineyard.
He was getting there.
I was going with the Vineyard.
We can pause it for you guys to hug if you want.
Actually, we're making good wine. It's great grapes, and the sales are struggling a bit.
Vineyard produces such great wine that Greg shapes that anyone can sell it.
Well,
that's think so, would you?
As we always say, the hardest part's selling the wine. Anyone can make. There's lots of good booze out there now. It's good. We got a good brand that helps so much, but you sort of get out there and push it a fair bit. So I think we're finding that in general, even export. Got some good little export markets around, but obviously the last couple of years have been reasonably tough, but it's okay.
Where do you see it going in the next couple of years?
I think we should even talk about that coming down. I think what's changed for us, Langhorne Creek very much a Shiraz Cabernet dominated region is, those two words aren't quite as sexy as what they used to be. It's sort of like stylistically, probably things have changed a little bit from what Greg's always been quite elegant style anyway, but probably more down that path. There may be more midweight wines. We'll start to do more of that and maybe plant a couple of different varietals possibly going forward and just change up the mix a little bit, I think, as well. I mean, main thing from business is like everyone trying to, value add as much as we can and probably get more direct to customer stuff and that sort of thing. But I guess everyone's trying to do the same thing though as well. So just change the mix a little bit, put out a few different offerings and all those things. But, we got good distributors. All our distributors have been there for at least 20 years in every state. So we've got pretty good networks with them and what's going on. So I think everyone's finding it pretty tough out there at the moment though.
But I think Lake Breeze has always been a great example of a brand that understood itself and its consumers understand it as well. So there can be a bit of evolution there, but people sort of, have this expectation of Lake Breeze. They have a familiarity with it. And I think that's
from the core.
Yeah, and that's been an admirable thing about the way you guys have run it is always, fundamentally been, Lake Breeze.
Well, that's it. You can't go away from that for what's been successful. But you can't put your head in the sand and sort of go, well, we're going to always make Cabernet's going to be, because it may not, that's always going to be one of our strengths. But at the same time, you need to sort of look at chipping away at a few different things and which we've done in other sides of the business, and not just but at the same time, knowing where your core strengths are.
We're hearing a lot about regenerative practices at the moment. Some of our other episodes, are you implementing some of those things around the place or got plans to?
In the vineyards? Some of our vineyards are getting, quite old now. We've done a little bit out in front of Celador with Shiraz and Old Cabernet. Shiraz worked really well with regenning. The Cabernet's a bit of a struggle. The older they get, and now with some vine viruses and stuff like that, it is pretty hard with the Cabernet. I guess you just got to be continually being on it. If they're no good, you rip them out and do them that way. But it's, because they're in that vineyards in a stage of, a lot of vineyards were planted in those good times, late mid-90s, and they're the ones that are struggling. And so there's a lot of them are out there, and because they've been boxed hedged and differently hedged, they're very much harder to maybe regenerate in that way. So some harder decisions with those sort of vineyards.
I think part of your question was regenerative agriculture as a I know. Well, my son, who's perhaps not so much into the viticulture at this point, he headed over to a regenerative farm in Portugal. He's just that's right up his alley. So as we sort of see maybe that sort of thing coming in, a bit more diversification and a bit more, not necessarily going down the organics run, but things that we're doing. I mean, we're part of the Eco Vineyards program as well. Do you want to explain?
We do a few things like that with making our own compost and all that type of thing, and out of the grape marks and stuff like that, to try to regenerate the ground as such. And it's not the easiest thing in the world to do that, but we're slowly trying to go that path a bit more to try to look after the land and the ground rather than just rape and pillage it sort of thing. So
but it's an opportunity to sort of, again, evolve the business or just reshape the vineyards for the next
and I think
50, 60 years of...
Certainly a time at the moment with, obviously, because we still, which we haven't probably done, we still sell some of the fruit off the vineyard. So we've got a little over 200 acres, 80-odd hectares under vine, and I suppose we use, these days probably closer to 60%. 60% of the fruit, and we still sell some others, but obviously those sales of Cabernet, etc., to the Treasury wine estates of the world, and that are not, whilst we've got contracts for a little bit longer, aren't going to perhaps be there forever in the way it's going. So we're sort of seeing that we're going to have to diversify in the vineyard and maybe change the varietal mix, and then look at some of these different practices and stuff to sort of the next evolution. And that's
very long term thinking.
Over the next few years, things will change.
What makes Langhorne Creek such a great place to grow grapes?
Oh, I guess the climate, and the soils. Well, the soils are very up and down because they're very different in all different areas, but the climate's the best, I guess. Ease of spraying and things like that. There's not the disease pressure. Well, it has been the last few years, but generally the disease pressure is not there, and things like that. So, it just makes life easier rather than having to spray 10, 12 times or things like that. But
it is nice and flat in Langhorne Creek.
There's no hills. There's no hills and things like that. But there is some challenges. You got,
what are they?
Because we got floodplain on one side and we got non-floodplain on the other, and so all the watering's different. And you get sand ridges and hills and heavy loam areas where floods are laid. So the vineyards can be very different from one end of the vineyard to the other, to the hollows and stuff. So there's a lot of, there's challenges in that way in the vineyards.
But in saying that, it does also, by having that, give slightly different wines as well. So from a winemaker, you get more options in what you're doing on the blending bench as well.
So you have the more dry grain to the flood, ones.
Yeah, I always sort of talk about even, especially across sort of Shiraz and Malbec in particular, you've got the floodplain material, which gives you that depth and richness and, the softness, the soft tannins are things that Langhorne Creek's known for. And then sort of as off the floodplain on the sort of sandier country, you've those real lifted aromatics, and the wines are a bit more length and a bit more structure and stuff. So be able to blend those across is really good. But climatically is something people don't sort of realise how cool it can be in Langhorne Creek. We're quite a lot cooler than Adelaide Hills in the summer, and a lot of times when the sea breeze comes in, it can be 35 in Mount Barker and 25 in Langhorne Creek on some days in the summer. Obviously, the winter's a lot more mild, and we haven't got it's not quite as cool through there. But
it is going to be.
I think going forward with climate change and all that, I think we're probably better off than some.
There will be frost pressures and things like that, maybe.
What are some of the other misconceptions people might have about Langhorne Creek?
Salty. Yeah, I mean, I know that was the sort of big thing, especially when the lake was drying up at the end of that. Langhorne Creek wines are, it's all salty down there, and that's a bit of a misconception. Obviously, there are some vineyards that were planted in perhaps some areas that weren't as good.
All the misconceptions which are there are
over irrigated and that.
I think this is perception. It's just putting out a bulk amount of fruit, and it's kind of just chucking it out there. It's not this bespoke area because it's got a little bit bigger. We often talk about that if the area probably was smaller, we might get more notoriety because we grew through the 90s, 2000s, whatever. It's become bigger and
the old
because irrigation.
Secret weapon sort of
just
mindset,
fill up the blend and whatever. So that's a misconception, I think, out there. And I think we get so many people who just love the wine and they know how good the wine is and what great value the wine is. We just need more of those to spread that word that the wine is that good, and we can make these great styles of wine. I think too. I think we can have a broad range of style wines that we can make, and with these lovely soft tannins, it's just us not having those wine labels out there to get it out there. So I think it's awareness of the area too. I think there's even people in Adelaide don't know where the hell Langhorne Creek is, even though we're an hour away. So I think that's one of our biggest challenges from a region is awareness of where the hell we are. I think it's even from weddings, we're an hour away. Often people, to put this in perspective, they're going to catch a coach, but they'll get there an hour early because they think it's right down halfway to the Coonawarra. So just this perception of where we are, that it's not just an easy day trip out, which it is. So I said this is over a bit of time that hopefully that knowledge, spreads to other people out there in Adelaide and around.
Would you say you're seeing more people though coming into the region?
Oh, for sure.
Definitely,
yeah. I think we know from our cellar door to even the restaurant part, we had, not that you can't have quiet days, you can, but the amount of people coming through now would be, fivefold of what we had probably even 10 years ago. So it's definitely getting there. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, but it's a build it and they will come kind of proposition. People need more to do when they make that trip, and you guys are doing that.
Just need Nick Ryan to write about it.
I do.
He's been all right. He's been all right.
Jeez, how you touchy with that, wasn't it? Oh, that just hit a little bit. He's got the coat going now.
I love, but I spend a lot of time in Langhorne Creek. Just don't tell people what I'm doing there. One other question, I guess, and well, you can all answer this, but the Follett family have had a long association with the Royal Agricultural and Horticultural Society as well. How important is that kind of involvement and, contribution to that significant institution?
Probably my area, but that's what it dates.
And Ken.
But it was with the cattle initially.
That's the thing we've been showing there for years. I mean, we sort of look back in some of the records where my great-grandfather Arthur used to bring Clydesdales down to the show, and even grandfather Len, they used to walk them to the train at Strathalbyn and then put them on the train to come to Adelaide to show in the show. And obviously Dad's was a counsellor at the show. We showed. I mean, we all grew up coming down to the show and staying in the little
sleeping out the back of the cow sheds.
Out the back, and it used to be
little shed.
We only get 2 or 3 nights each because the rest of us had to be home milking, helping.
Can't just take 10 days off to walk around and wave.
So we grew up around the show, and then Dad, after showing the cows, was one of the counsellors on the dairy, for 30 plus years, and is still an honorary counsellor there, and still still helps out, even though he's
Still can't help
he's
himself.
finished,
Goes down there every year
finished
still.
that side of things, and yeah, he sort of probably encouraged me a little bit to get involved. But I've obviously on the wine side of things, I've been on the wine committee since 2011, I think, and been chair for the last few years of that. So
Very effective one too.
Don't give us that. Don't pump him up.
But no, it's a wonderful institution to be involved in. Once you sort of get in part, it's sort of a bit of fabric of the state, I think. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where that goes with family members down the track. But I think we'll always have a soft spot for the Royal Show.
Well, there's still another generation showing cattle there, and
my
Thomas
son's
is
been
into it,
showing
Greg's
cattle
son.
again. So I think there'll always be some sort of involvement. Obviously, we're still entering
Follett's
the wine
lurking
show.
around somewhere.
And we're all, can't see us not being involved in the wine show, even if we're just entering down the track. So
Yeah.
And looking to the next generation, how keen are they to continue on the legacy at this moment? Are they said that they're definitely signing up, or how's that?
Yeah, I think there's quite a few coming through. I think the best thing with the business and what's happened in general is it's gotten so much broader now than what it was. Back early on, it was a boy coming over the vineyard, someone doing winemaking, but now because it's grown to the restaurant part and the function, you got everyone from you can have chefs or graphic people or an event manager or a function manager, all these different roles. So it's open to probably everyone in our family now with a skill set, which is nice to see. I think probably obviously Tyler, Tim's son's very much got his foot in the door as a winemaker, but I think over time, the next 5 years, we're going to see that some will gravitate back. At least we're trying to create the opportunity that they can come back if they want to, whether it be, like I said, every girl in the business or the guys as our family about to come back. So I reckon we'd end up with 3 or 4, I think, very shortly coming back. We don't want to be there forever. That's really a key part for me and my role. I'm trying to just make sure that succession's coming through, that we get those new young people coming through, get rid of the old. Not that the old people can't have new ideas, but just those new fresher ideas and take the old winemaker out the back, the long walk out the back paddock. So I think we're going to have quite a few coming through soon, but at least we're trying to make the environment where they would want to come back and have the opportunity to come back, I guess.
But I think it's an interesting point you make, that it's a much more diverse business than the one you were brought home to work in at 17, 18.
But in a lot of ways, there's always been a little bit of, we still run a few cattle on the property, that we did juggle milk and cows, and we had the cellar door open for a little while as well. So there's always been, I've always had the vineyard and the winery. So there's always been a small element of that, but now, it's broadened a lot more, and there's a lot more opportunity, I suppose. But we're not forcing any of the kids to.
No. They've
come
all
back.
been encouraged, like Roger said earlier, to go out and do their own thing for how long.
My
But they
son,
know that's...
Yeah, pretty much all my nephews, bar 1 or 2, will come back and work vintage at least. And a lot of them work through the restaurant and stuff, whether it be washing dishes or, wait staff and stuff, and, helping out with the festival and that. I enjoy that. They enjoy a free ticket for the festival.
Exactly. Come back and work the festival.
So what are you excited about for the future in terms of seeing things take shape?
The future, I guess we're sort of talking about those things now. Where's our next, because we've always, can I use that word one more time? Always evolving into something different. So as to where we sort of go next, I think we've got a pretty good base with what we've got there now. We're pretty comfortable with what we've done. You're always looking at little bits to add on to it. So we're not sure where we go the next little step, but it's probably trying to offer more things through cellar door or other little parts of the farm. As grapes probably come off a bit, so other little bits we can do that can be sold and brought people to the area, those sort of things, which would make the area that little bit better. So we're always thinking about those little things. We've got no real great plan. We do a lot of, we just do a lot of,
isn't it?
We do a lot of, I know, but we do a lot of talking about stuff and slowly the seed.
Evolve.
You got to sow a seed in the
So you sow a seed rather than go.
It's all about sowing the seed with one of the.
Have we got a certain theme going on here today? You're picking up on?
Yeah.
Well, hopefully the new next generation has the ideas, has some more.
3 years time something starts happening. I said, did we agree on that? Yeah,
we talked about it. When we talked about it in the car going home from the podcast. Remember that one we talked about? Yeah.
But maybe you can overthink things. Maybe you can, overplan and then paralyze yourself really by being stuck to something.
It seems like it's working for you.
Well, it's obviously at the moment. I know we had this discussion, around the last 12 months. The industry is a bit of a downturn. It's a bit, so we'd hate to sort of be leaving right now while it's a little bit tougher. You'd love to be sort of handing it over to the next gen when things are booming. Not saying our business is still going really well, but it's not. We're not easy at the moment. So, we're sort of looking at those, little changes and gradually sort of broadening what we're doing, broadening the offering we have.
I mean, everyone wants to talk about how tough it is out there, but what gives you, hope? Where's the room for optimism? What makes you optimistic?
Roger tells us that it's all good.
He's
the half glass full.
I'm always an optimistic, but I think we've got really good relationships with our distributors. What we're doing, like from our brand, it's still going really well. And they say it's tough out there in the market, and it is. But we sort of get to this little hump now. It's going to take off again. So our brand's still going well. And I think everything's key to your relationships with who you've got. I think we've been at long enough and good enough people that we do keep our relationships for a long time, and we're very loyal. So we've always said that with all our overseas importers or whatever. We've had them for a long time too, and we just get on really well, and they know who we are, and people love the strength of a family business as well, that we're all in it for the long term. So I think we're all pretty optimistic where we are. And I think from us, the way we've set it up from the business and the succession, we've done a lot of succession planning the last probably 5 or 6 years. We've got that all very much nailed down, which I think was really important to all of us, that everyone knew where they were going, no matter what was going to happen. So I think once you get all that right and everyone's clear, it all kind of falls into place. I think that's the real nuts and bolts as a base to do that. And everyone feels comfortable with where they are and what we're doing. Then the business side just shoots out from there.
Yes, there's no surprises.
No, it's not. Like if Greg falls off the perch, it's all good. His family knows what's going on and how it's going to work.
And Tyler's there.
Look out, Greg.
Well, Greg's fatty heart. He's put weight on. You're not quite as trim as you were.
There you go. See, he was pumping you up before and didn't feel right. So
I like to tell the story about
you don't need to.
I don't need to tell the story. I won't tell that story. Okay. He's still, So I think we're all very optimistic where we are and where we're set up, and we've got a business that will encourage our kids to come back, and we've got it to that stage. And also just where we are with our brand, and we got good wines. We're really being proactive with the Vineyard, how to do that. Because we do want to leave it in a good shape for the next gen to come through and grab it and do what they think. You never know what's 30 years down the track on where we're going to be. Like we were milking cows so that we'll sell it all 30 years ago, and it's quite different to what it is now. So I think, that was a plan. That was a plan.
If you look at us from a brand, sure, things aren't brilliant at the moment, and things might be a little bit tight and a little bit slower in sales and that. But if you perhaps compare us with a lot of the rest of the industry, we're probably in a fairly good. We've got we like to think we've got a pretty good product to sell. We have a good, value to quality ratio is really, is probably one of our main selling points. We have a good story to tell. We own our own vineyards. We have diversification within what we're doing, and we're not just winemakers. We're not just growers. So as far as anyone in the industry, we think we're probably, in as good a spot to, be going for another 30 years as anyone placed in the industry at the moment. So
it takes a lot of work to put yourself in that position, though.
Oh, absolutely.
It's evolved well, hasn't it, Rog?
It's evolved beautifully, just like all of us. Beautifully evolved.
Would you recommend having that succession plan in place, especially for a family business that's so big? Is that really a foundation that allows you to go forward and not stress about stuff, or it adds something?
I think it's a really important thing. And we've probably slowly over time got that better and better until probably the last probably 7 or 8 years when it's really been nailed down.
Did you bring in outside experts from the start or gradually?
It's more a lot through our accountancy firm, really, where a lot of that sort of came from. And
just how to structure the business so that, you know, if there's any splits or anything, which we understand can happen, it's not going to pull the business down, and we know where it's all sitting at for when new people, you know, new family or, you know,
so everyone can go forward with that certainty.
Yeah, you know, whether it be estate planning from the lawyers to, you know, operating agreements if this happens, and all those sort of things are all kind of there. So I think a lot of the key part of that is really everyone communicating together what that actually looks like in real life, getting everything written down, but how would that actually happen in real life? So nothing's certain. But
we haven't tested anything too.
Yeah,
much
no
yet.
one's. But I think once everyone knows, it's
But when I fall off the perch, you know, we'll
Sounds like Roger's getting ready for it.
What's your BMI, Greg? What's in that?
Yeah, that's the next episode, health checks for winemakers. You could be the first guinea pig, Greg.
Oh, thanks, mate.
Closing remarks?
Closing remarks.
Roger would like to say he couldn't do it without Greg and Tim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Say something nice, Roger.
No, I think from just talking about the business, I think it's really important from our family business that everyone's got their own kind of area. I think it's when we try to set it up over time too, that everyone's in there. Even though everyone comes together and has to make certain decisions sometimes, but everyone's in their own lane to a certain extent to do that, empowered to do that. So I think that's a really key part of, especially when there's quite a few people involved. And for me, it's like sister-in-laws as well, and wives and nieces and all these other people in it. So I think one's just got to have their own role. It's pretty important to have that succession there and plan. And you know, communication is obviously the key part of everything. So
everyone feels valued and like they've got a role
I
to
think
play.
that's important for sure.
I agree. I think what Ken's instilled in us and being able to forgive and forget easily is made a big thing. You know, we have our issues, but I think be able to, you know, come back the next day and you're still having lunch with each other day in, day out goes a long way of having success in a family business, which, you know, it's often falls apart in a lot of stories. But I think being able to have that sort of mindset to be able to forgive and forget and move on, and tomorrow's another day, and goes a long way of success.
Yeah, I think it's rounded out nicely if you sort of look at, you know, going back to where we sort of started this talking about mum and dad, you know, and you know what we sort of look at how they sort of have given us opportunity to what we're doing today, and given the grandkids, I'm sure they're sort of really proud. Dad'd be probably tearing up about now if we're talking to him about this. But yeah, we've got a lot to be thankful for them, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Wipe it away, Ken. You did good.
I'm sure they'll like to have a listen. All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
I'm not sure Ken knows what a podcast is.
No,
So that's the grandkids will show him, lad.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
Put it on for him.
Put it on the car and off you go.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, boys.
Thanks for listening. Head to the Wine Grape Council of South Australia website for links and further resources. This is part of a bigger conversation, so feel free to share this podcast with your mates and look after yourselves. Cheers.